Totem. Cobb walked through the lobby of the Gladstone Hotel and saluted Jimmy at the front desk. He bounced down the stairs and turned right on Queen Street and stepped into the night. The light was red and he stood at the corner and watched the activity around him. He had on a 3/4 black leather jacket. It was a little heavy for the weather, but it was that or a sweatshirt. Another truckload of smokes was coming in the next day. Cobb was making an extra $5,000 a week on top of his salary with the sewer company. He was going for his weekly with his parole officer, the Queen's Queen, as he called him, but a victim like Cobb, a brother outside the circle around the Queen's fire, and a good customer for the smokes. He watched a police cruiser pull to the side of the road a half block ahead to talk to a couple of streetwalkers. Cops were the worst of the worst. They spoke with the robes that spoke with the spirit of judgment. But the cops never understood what the robes said, and they never felt the comfort of the spirit of judgment. They never felt protected, and it made them fearful and angry in their hearts. They were capable of lies, deceit, and cruelty. He watched Sheila, his neighbor down the hall at the Gladstone, walk away from her friend and turn into an alley. The cop kept talking to the other girl and Cobb walked past the cruiser. He stopped a half block ahead and turned around when he was in a thick group of people at a streetcar stop. The cop talked another 2 or 3 minutes, then pulled away, past Cobb in the middle of the streetcar group. Cobb doubled back and turned into the alley just before the alley Sheila had gone into. He jogged down the alley to the back end and hid behind a garbage dumpster. It took a minute for the cruiser to appear on the back lane behind the alleys. The cop had circled the block and returned to make his rendezvous with Sheila. Cobb ducked as the headlights fell on the dumpster. The car passed him. The red taillights disappeared around the corner into the alley in which Sheila was waiting. Cobb moved from behind the dumpster and walked to the back of the alley. Cobb was a phenomenal stalker. The cop had parked only a couple of meters into the alley. It was pitch black behind the cruiser. There were no lights in the alley. The cruiser was turned off. Cobb saw a soft glow inside the cruiser. It disappeared almost immediately. He saw a softer light, almost imperceptible, as soft as the end of some burning substance, like tobacco. He could hear the murmurs of voices. They were speaking comfortably with each other. The soft glow returned and then disappeared again. It happened 4 times. Something was passing back and forth between them. He could see the silhouettes of their heads and the shoulders of the cop. Sheila's silhouette disappeared and Cobb darted behind the back wall of the alley, unsure if she was going to pop out of the car on the passenger side or not. She did not. Cobb returned to his post and observed the interior of the cruiser again. There was only one silhouette. Cobb put his back against the wall of the alley and waited. 5 minutes later, a door opened and closed. He heard Sheila's heels on the asphalt. She was coming out the back way towards Cobb. He saw her and crouched. There was a pile of empty boxes and they smelled like rotting produce, but they hid Cobb well. When she was a pace past Cobb's position, he stood up behind her, grabbed her around the chest, squeezed, and put one of his giant hands over her mouth. "Hey baby, it's me, Cobb, from the hotel. Don't be afraid, okay? Tap my leg once for weed, twice for crack. What did you smoke with the cop? Do you understand?" She nodded her head and tapped his leg once. "Is it good shit? Are you stoned? Is he stoned?" Once for yes, twice for no. She tapped his leg once. "I'm going to let you go." She tapped his leg once. He let her go and she walked down the back lane without looking back. She didn't walk fast. She just walked out. She didn't care about what was going to happen. Cobb picked up a rock and walked to the driver's side of the cruiser. The light was on inside and the young constable was writing in his notebook. The interior light blinded him to anything outside the car, and Cobb was as silent as death, so the young constable didn't know there was a giant Indian standing on the other side of his driver's side window. Cobb smashed the window with a stone. He noted the look of absolute terror on the young cop's face, then rendered him unconscious with a single blow to the chin. Certain that it all happened so quickly, the cop would not even be able to tell the detectives whether his assailant was black, yellow, 7, or 4 feet tall. Cobb took his badge and all the bullets from his gun. He left the gun because he didn't want it. He didn't need it. They would triple the manpower to find the culprit if a gun was taken. The city would loosen purse strings, bend the law, do what it had to do to find a person who took a cop's gun. A gun was a cop's totem. It would be better to scalp them than take their guns. Their spirit of judgment lived within their guns. They would look for a cop's gun the way they looked for a missing child. Cobb knew that. End of chapter.